Hello, everybody. Welcome back to live coverage of the Asia Masters GT3 Championship. Bit of a different mix-up today here at Laguna Seca. Our usual comms cast could not make it out to America for this sweltering hot penultimate round. So today you have me, Ryan Mawson, who's leading the show. I've sat in what is usually this man sat for across from me. Jesse Leesey will be our co-coms and getting out of the car today to come and make sure the broadcast stays alive is the Jake Boswell. You won't see him on track this time. He's got all the fancy buttons in front of him. But Jesse, Laguna Seca, probably a track you're more familiar with out in the Americas. But what a temperature difference that we've got today from the last week.
Yes, hello everybody out there. Welcome into a sweltering Laguna Seca. I don't care where you're from on planet Earth, Mawson. It is a hot one out there today. 33 degrees ambient is hot regardless, but 43 degrees C, you could crack an egg and sizzle that baby up on the tarmac that we have for you today. And the weird thing about all this is considered normal for California.
Yeah, the California sun will. It's not kind to anything that it touches. Having seen plenty of cars that have lived out here for long enough, just see what happens to paintwork when you leave it in this sun. I'm sure that a lot of the teams will, if they've optioned for it, will have been glad that these cars fit with air conditioning for some of the endurance packs. But even with the heat and even with the track only being fast, just I think because it is so blistering hot, the times are still blisteringly quick. A 22.3 by the one and only Joe McCauley, leading the championship and still leading into this race, and Andy Boardman looking quite strong in the silver category again as well. And well, this man as well, Benjamin Heilman, coming back in, missed round one, but I did have I think when we were talking to him, he said he didn't have a stellar round two, or didn't exactly like Donington in the rain, so he's probably looking forward to a little bit more here. We've seen already in the practice session some interesting lines and some people taking corkscrew with liberties, I would say. But it's definitely going to be interesting what happens in the race, because the temperature throws in such a huge change to your setups and your strategy. You have to keep those tires cool, but in doing so, that means that your brakes, they're going to be freezing cold.
Yeah, they sure are. This track has its own unique difficulty, as we all know, but the weather also has difficulty, and not to mention the cars. Of course, the Asia Masters Championship only manufacturers that originate from Asia, and that has completely changed what most people would drive here. Of course, the Lexus and the Nissan on full display. This championship, surprising to me, that there is sort of a committal at the top of the pro board with two Lexi up there. I call them Lexi, of course. Not sure if that's true, but nobody's corrected me yet, and it's been 3 or 4 years, so I will continue to call it as such. But there are a couple of Nissans that have been quite stout as well. But all of that really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. It's about what you can do today. What car will be the one preferred here today? Well, we'll find out here in qualifying right after the cool down from practice.
I like how you say changing change of cars for some people, unless your name, of course, is Joe McCauley, the Honda master. We've seen him numerous times in RCI events, always in a bit of an oddball car is Joe. It's almost scary when you put him in a regular car. If anyone tuned in to our 12 hours of Silverstone yesterday, you will actually remember Joe McCauley from the 18 Bentley, that as soon as they got some clear air, they charged up ahead, seemingly leaving everyone for dust. Well, the Honda is the car that he usually drives, and look at this as a scene. We did think that traffic in qualifying was going to be interesting. It's not exactly a big track. In fact, it's one of the shortest laps you can have in ACC, but space is going to be at a premium.
Well, I will say it's feeding time at the trough, and nearly everybody exiting pit lane in one procession. Some 20 cars have exited pit lane, a further 5 or 6 hanging back, trying to time it and get a little bit of extra space. Of course, they're not supposed to lay back in Sector 3, so if you're going to find your space, you better find it before you hit the corkscrew. That is about where Sector 3 starts. Several cars weaving back and forth, trying to get the tires up to temperature, including Mikhail Sundstrom, the NOP 899, in a very striking purple color there. Trying to get up to speed. Well, what do you expect here? We don't have a large notebook, nor would any community have a large notebook for this car combination at this racetrack. What do you expect out of these 10 minutes?
I, it's a hard one to call. I am wondering that in the qualifying pace, when they've got a little bit of maybe a little bit more grip on the track, we might see a bit of a switch around. I think the Honda has shown so incredibly strong in practice just because of it's one of the fastest cars down the straight line. I'm just wondering if the Lexuses might have a little bit of a nibble coming towards the end of the session. This car does need a little bit more grip than, say, some of the others. But riding on board Nico Kumpu for the Tech 1 racing car, I mean, look at how close as well the walls are on this circuit. I know a lot of people who race here almost liken it to a street circuit. If you make a mistake here, there is no runoff to be had, and a lot of adversely cambered corners as Nico Kumpu has to have a quick correction of the steering wheel there. Probably one of the scariest, or second scariest corners on the track right here. The fast left, it dips in, it cambers in, and it's completely blind coming up to it. And then you are climbing up the hill. What an elevation change to this. The corkscrew, the corner that needs no introduction. I think a couple of race car drivers have described it as you have massive lateral G, followed by huge negative G, huge positive G, all in the space of a second, and then charging back down the hill. Once again, a huge elevation change that you only really see unless you stand at the bottom of the hill in real life and look up and think, yeah, we've just gone up there and down there in under 2 minutes flat. But for the 256 coming to the line, it will be a 123.8 is the first time on the board, but I think there's still a lot to give there. And there you go, as Henry Fuerte in the 86 takes provisional pole, and we're already into the 22s.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me that Henry Fuerte did a lap that quick immediately, a 22.9, the mark to beat. Now, the question is that good enough? Can anybody beat it? I reckon it is beatable. Christoph Streppen in second place, 7.47, giving chase less than a tenth between the top two. Giuseppe D'Anna has been quick and will be quickest, 22.927 for Giuseppe D'Anna, and that looks good for their championship hopes. Jordan Daly comes in with a cool top 10 pace there, bumping out Benjamin Heilman out of that final top 10 spot. Joe McCauley finishing up his lap. One of the cars that actually laid back a little bit. Ryan didn't hit the leave pit lane button immediately. Will that pay dividends here as they will climb the hill up to the start-finish line? What do we have? And it's provisional pole, 22.732. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what car you're driving. That's quick.
Yeah, and I think Joe might still have a little bit of time left to give, but that clear air might be what he needs right at the end, because this is once again another short fire qualifying session. We've only got 5 minutes left on the board as Benjamin Heilman puts that GTR all the way up to P4, 2/10 off the leader and the highest Nissan so far. What can Nicholas Nordqvist say about that, though, for the Sim Brothers car? Very striking livery on this one, very easy to see, at least, especially in the California sun. It's I think we'd be able to see this going all the way up the hill. The 137 charges to the line, and they will go from 20th to 8th, 4/10 off, and they pull over maybe to reset the tire pressures.
Sim Brothers indeed. Victor Nordqvist, his relation also in the championship as well. Tom Watts coming to the line in the blue and yellow Lexus, and that will be an improvement of 24.225, and that at least gets them on the board. A nice benchmark time. Joe McCauley coming around for round number 2. Will this be a further improvement? You bet it is. 2/10 better, a 22.515. Henry Fuerte had it down within a tenth, but now has all of that work to do. Nearly a quarter of a second between first and second right now. What can Fuerte do to answer back? Rob Taplin The RTV Motors car goes P12 with a 23.340. Benjamin Heilman up to P4, a 22.820.
And another car that's pulling over. I think we see many strategies in qualifying, especially for the quick fires. Often people will want to stay out, but I think with how hot this track has been, and it has finally clipped over to optimum. I think with how hot it is, people are thinking, I've got 3 minutes. That is enough for an out lap, an flying lap. That might be the last final. Have we got anything left in the tank? Speaking of left in the tank, Jordan Daly moves up from 18th to that top 10 position, just about. So good gains for Jordan Daly here. Peter Henneberg coming to the line. What can they do? Seeing this is your P2 in the championship is the 77. They had second in the first round, fourth in the next, but not gelling with Laguna Seca today. Maybe it's the 77, or they've just had to be dealing with traffic.
Well, I've got to ask you, because you've driven more laps here in ACC than I have, as Vigascu will come to the line and try to improve a 24.012, the quickest for that car. But I will ask you, in this temperature, this heat, almost unprecedented here for us at RCI, not unrealistic to California, but unprecedented because we come here so few times, and it is very hot. Are you surprised at the mid 22s that you've seen so far?
Not really. Like some of the cars, obviously the grip levels will just keep decreasing. I mean, either end of the extreme we saw at Silverstone, if you remember, when it dropped so cold. Even the front runners were dropping a second, 2 seconds a lap. But the other problem that you have is ACC will accurately model that the hotter it gets, the more the engines struggle, just because you haven't got as denser air to choose. So all the cars will be feeling down on power. They will be feeling down on grip. If you can push through that and just continue the corner speed, then that is how you get the time. That's how I think we're seeing the number one, Joe McCauley, for example, be so still be so rapid in these temperatures. But for a lot of drivers and a lot of cars, it is a struggle. And speaking of Joe McCauley, it's coming around the line again, and of course it's another improvement. It's almost into the 21s. Verstappen has got up there, up into P2 in the 747, had it almost down to a 10th. Nope, it's now 2 temps, lads.
Matus Ladke will take P8 here, a 23.025. Gives them a top 10 starting spot, but McCauley continuing to pour on the pressure. What about Mikhail Sundstrom down in P13? Unfamiliar territory, but bumps themselves back inside the top 10, a 23.077. The fastest mark for the 899. Stefan Zero in 7th place. Nyring in 6th. Heilman inside the top 5. Deanna 4th. Verstappen 3rd. Fuerte goes back to P2 as the pitcher's duel for the front row continues.
And in the silver class as well, you've got Hladky in the 78 running out that, Dvorak in P2, and Andy Boardman, who is, your silver class. I believe that car is in the silver class. It is in P2, just behind Nicholas Nordqvist. But yeah, it's going to it may be a big shake-up day for that, as Atzvanger continues around in the 18th position. 23 seconds left. Everyone's trying to have a mad dash in the line, and there's a car upside down.
That's Mikhail Sundstrom. Mikhail Sundstrom has ended upside down at the top of the corkscrew.
Quick race replay on the thing. What has happened here? So
that wasn't Mikhail Sundstrom.
No, that was another Nissan.
He just happened to park somewhere near the accident scene. That was a different car.
That was very, very strange. I'm trying to work out how that they have even managed that. Like, I've never, ever seen a car upside down at the corkscrew. Like, never in my life. As the replay of Andy Boardman going through. Bit of an abandon into the track.
Andy Boardman going to the hot dog stand, apparently.
Oh yeah, there's at least around that area of the track, there is a few runoffs to be had. I can confirm this. I've been down some of the runoffs there myself, but qualifying will end. A lot of cars actually opting to go back to the pit lane. They realized they were not up on their delta, have called it, including Joe McCauley, Henry Fuerte, Christopher Verstappen, Giuseppe Diana and Heilmann. So the top is pretty much locked in unless Stefan Zero has anything to say about it for the GC racing car, the 721. A man who's also very familiar with this car, the Lexus, Hans-Strom Vigasio, comes across the line, will jump his way up to P14, a good improvement for the Nissan there. And Stefan Zero comes across the line. It will be P3 for the 721. A final dash to the line has put that car on the second row.
That's an absolutely lovely lap by Zero. Zero was flirting with the top five all qualifying long, and there with the last gasp takes the inside for row number two. An excellent lap, but it will be pole for Joe McCauley. And what a lap he was able to do. Man, I would love if Jedi Jake, the Bosmeister Boswell, could find that car that ended up upside down. I would absolutely love to figure out what happened. We saw two cars, one before and one after. Neither one was the one that was upside down. We clearly saw a car on its lid at the bottom of the corkscrew. We'll see if we can't get that to you. No promises, though, of course. Ryan Mawson, crazy championship that we've had so far, and nothing is decided yet.
No, absolutely. Still, there's, we'll have a look at the standings. And speaking of, here they are. Standings are still incredibly close. It is in the GT3 Pro. Christopher Verstappen still leading the way in the 747 with 66 points. Peter Henneberg not far off, though, with 6 points back. That's only a handful of points. Joe McCauley, your what appears to be your fastest car on track with 45. That is because they signed out of the British round. They were not present at Donington. Giuseppe De Anna, once again, another strong car, but didn't have a stellar round one on 43 points, tied with Stefan Zero in that 721 Lexus. Looking back, it's Hagstrom Vigasio in the Nissan, the highest Nissan up we've got with 40 points. Henry Fuerte, incredible strong-looking car today in 39. That will really help his championship points if he can pull that off. Klaus Nearing with 36, which is also tied with Mikael Sundstrom, who is the sister car to the 81. And Rob Taplin rounds out your top 10 with 30 points. Looking back, we've got Nicholas Nordqvist as well. This was a silver driver who's been bumped up to pro, so he has 30 points. Nico Kumpu sits on 20, and it's once again another tie. Lots of ties this season for Jordan Daly and Andres Saka, both 17 points apiece. Van Kampen has 11, and another tie. Benjamin Heilmann, who missed round one, and Victor Nordqvist. So once again, Heilmann, these points today will really help his championship battle. You have Harley Smith on 4, and Sabaseries has yet to score any points. And the cars with the dashes next to their name have signed out of the championship. And looking back in the silver class, you have Nicholas Nordqvist, but as I mentioned, he has been moved to a pro driver. So it is actually Andy Boardman in the 66 leads with that Lexus. 66 points and 66 race number. So nice going, Andy. Mark Nosk rounds out with another tie with 52 points to Matthew Kingston Lee. Rudy Filmolter, the South African, on 50, just within a stone's throw away. Tom Watts in the 942 with 44 points. Thibaut Roskam then is also another tie with Robin Klaus for 42 points apiece. Florian Atzvanger, 30 points, and Joe Dorber rounds out the top 10 with 23. You have Hladky, who that's the car is looking incredibly strong today. Another car that's really going to benefit from these extra points on 23. Phil Roberts on 22 in the Tonkzilla. Dvorak on 19, another strong car. And Benjamin Schumann with 18. Jake Boswell is obviously here today, has not scored the points, and sadly will not today because he's got all the shiny buttons in front of him.
That's got to be very strange for somebody to see their name on a list of points where they're actually the ones causing the graphics to move on the screen. Well, of course, Jedi Jake the Bosmeister Boswell, as I call him, with us today, rather selflessly, of course, took himself out of the race so we could bring this race to you. Obviously, we are not the normal commentary crew that you're accustomed to hearing on your Monday evening, but when somebody asks, we all sort of pitch in and do our part. Jake, no different than anybody else. And of course, Mawson, I am not going to give up an opportunity to be with this group in the box any day of the week. 1 hour of racing scheduled today. incredibly warm temps, and a little birdie told me down in the pit lane during practice earlier, taking tires might be the winning strat today.
I would very much say so, just with how hard it is, and these cars are none of these cars that they have been selected for the Asia Masters are exactly car that I would say are friendly on tires. The Lexus, heavy on fuel, heavy on its tires. The GTR can cause, have a lot of front end scrub, which will not aid in the tire wear. And the Honda, just with the pace that that car has, the entry speeds, and the fact you've got to slow down so much, that will also start to wear the tires away. But as we have the grid walk as well, some great liveries in the Asia Masters, and it's been some really close racing. So looking forward to see this race play out. Laguna Seca is a difficult track. It's a difficult conditions, and they're not exactly easy cars to drive either. But it will be the number one, the purple and black. Well, are we going to call it purple or blue? I'm going to say, I think it's purple.
Don't start with me.
Here, I
Don't
was going to
start
say,
with
here we go. Joe McCauley, I'm sure will come and correct us after, but it will be the number one to take us around and away for the start of this race.
Well, the car's setting off on the pace lap. They'll get one of these and then they will be turned loose for the green flag. 1 hour. Pit stop required today, as always, but tires might be the key in this race. Will anybody risk it for the biscuit and not take the tires and potentially get themselves track position, but potentially also have really, really grained and ruined tires at the end of this race? Don't know. All I do know is Joe McCauley is sitting in the best seat in the house, and I can't think of a single reason to bet against him.
Yeah, exactly. And with a Honda, if you can get that jump, you can get, if you can get away from battles, that will really help. I would not, put it outside though of Henry Fuerte managing to take it to Joe McCauley. They were not that far off in qualifying. Obviously, matched machinery Hondas. Joe's probably, I would say, maybe a little bit more comfortable in that car just because of the experience that he has. I can attest that this man can drive a Honda. I've seen what he can do at some of the other tracks, even against, modern GT3 fields where you say, this car can't be competitive anymore. Well, Joe will completely prove you wrong for that. But, it's going to be an interesting day. And for the even for the silver class, for the lower split, Gladke here in the 78 done a great job to put that on pole. And all of these points that they're getting, this will really help all of those P1, 2, and 3. Andy Boardman trying to hang on to his P1, Hladky and Vorak just trying to get some points to move up the order. And hopefully we'll see that all come to play as they line up 2 by 2. It's a very short formation lap, but it's going to be an even shorter race lap. And sweltering conditions here. It's a Honda 1-2 and a Lexus 3-4. Wonder how this is going to play out by the time we've called the checker flag.
I am waiting with anticipation. A couple of points of business before we get going today. One of the fantastic people in chats pointed out it was Nico Kumpu in a Lexus that flipped upside down, and there was more to it than that as well. And that was the qualifying incident. And also, Stephen in chat says that car is cerulean as well. So, Ryan Mawson, please do the honors. Take it away. Let's call it down at a turn one, the penultimate round of the Asia Masters Cup.
Well, green flag and off we go. And Hladky 78 has already got a drive through. That must be for position on track, as it is Joe McCauley leading the pack to the inside. Henry Fuerte looking to the outside. He's going to be careful. There you go. The 721 of Stefan Zero has the inside line. Will turn into the outside line, though, and a clean getaway for the most of the pack. In fact, no waved yellow flags. Stefan Zero still trying to go for the cutback on Henry Fuerte. He might be hung out to dry here. It's going to be too wide through the fast right. A scary moment. A touch of the grass or a touch of the gravel. Even a couple of cars taking that line, but everyone gets through. Stefan Zero's now got the outside line, and this is the problem with Laguna. It's just switchbacks all the time as the 11. That's Giuseppe Downer is thinking, come on, lads, can we please sort this out? And we finally do come into the fast right before the corkscrew. But look at the lead that Joe has already got because of this fighting. He's just gone and dusted.
Oh, they're thinking about the going too wide down the corkscrew, and that almost never works out. But they're going to try Klaus Nyring here. It's going to be side by side with a fellow Lexus, but it gets handled. Gladkey has a drive-through penalty. I'm forced to believe that has something to do with starting outside the position that you're supposed to start in. Very easy to do, as Nyring, after that excellent maneuver, has went off into the dirt of the penultimate corner. That will lose him a spot, and he will try to get by the GTR again. Fast start, and if you are Joe McCauley, you're laughing all the way to the bank. Perfect start by the number 1 Honda.
Yeah, so the number 1 has got up and gone, and we see the Lexus is pulled in for the drive-through as well. So see what happens in the silver class. Klaus Nyring still under attack. That is Andy Boardman, who's been tapped.
Ooh.
Andy Boardman trying to go 2 into 1. It doesn't go. And everyone's out accordioned up in effect. We'll have a quick race replay of that. Looks up the inside, turns in, and it's just, the door was closing. And then you can see the two sister, those are the 2 sister GTRs. In fact, that's it'd be Mikael Sundstrom and Vigasu both as well. Sort of causing the roadblock. I mean, look at this track is barely 2 GTR wide, and I think from that picture we can confirm it there as Klaus Nyring goes off again in the green tired Lexus.
That car is having it's taking a walkabout, as the Australians would say. It's going around the corners a lot of the long ways, losing positions. Jordan Daly here in P11 fighting for that spot, and it will be confirmed as they get single file again, as Daly will have been saying, "Thank you very much, Mr. Nyring, for giving me that spot." And the fight does continue. Nico Kumpu in the 256 comes down pit lane. That car did not have a penalty, so I believe this is them doing their pit stop incredibly early. They may take tires here, but they won't be a big benefit, whereas if you pitted in the middle of the race and took tires, it would be a massive benefit. So I wonder if that is strategy set for some of the cars in the field. Several in there. The 818 is also in the pit lane. And one other bit of housekeeping to make you aware of, the 35 car started from the pit lane. He's been in our chat prior to the green flag set that didn't press drive starting from pit lane. So that was a error and not by design, but I would say for the 35 it worked out well, because look what mess they're not in the middle of.
Yeah, exactly. And for that, basically most of that lap, Giuseppe De Anna and Stefan Zero still side by side, but it's now Benjamin Heilman. This car's been sat there watching the battle, has seen the maneuver, seen the Honda go off.
How did Benny get up to 4th?
Benny has been sat there watching these people sort of making a fool of themselves in front, and has just finally taken his time, taken the moment, and pounced. So the 796, the highest Nissan up the grid, into 5th place.
Absolutely incredible. Well, here, more than anywhere else, I would argue, well, with the exception of probably Zandvoort, opportunistic driving and being in the right position to take advantage of somebody else's misfortune is at a premium here. You gain, more often than not, more spots on other people's misfortune than you do your actual pace. Believe it or not, it is just a tight racetrack, and it forces errors. And unlike a modern circuit, you go off here, you probably don't go off too far, but you get stuck in a sand trap, and that certainly just acts like a parachute.
Well, either that or coming up, I know the sand coming up to the corkscrew, which is very easy to find yourself in if you have a bit of a nibble of the inside curb at the fast left. That sand out there, it just takes all of your grip away, and you know, we've seen it a few times here in RCI where cars have ended up rejoining sideways just because they've lost control coming up this hill. So it's one of those, if you can help it at Laguna, you need to keep all 4 wheels on the black stuff and sort of continue that. Joe McCauley has taken the purple lap. Do we really expect anything different from the number 1? But for Benjamin Heilman, looking back here, 4th place now, trying to run away from the 11 Honda will be a scary sight in the mirror. And meanwhile, Stefan Zero finally managing to put that pace of the Lexus to great effect and is starting to pull away. I'm wondering if the Lexus might be a little bit stronger in the at the start. I'm wondering if Giuseppe De Anna in the Honda might be have been trying to go a little bit more conservative at the start, you know, to keep the tires and keep the rubber going for the end of the stint, but might have just been a little bit too gentle.
Well, it is a Monday, and I'm not normally here, but if you're with us any other time during the week, you may recall that I like to do the maths, and I have been doing the maths, as you might expect. And any way you cut it, that second place car of Henry Fuerte is chasing down our leader, Joe McCauley, at minimum 1/10 per sector over the last 2.5 laps. It just updated again, another 10th taken out of that lead. It's less than 3 seconds first to second as they continue to tighten up front.
So there you go. The Honda might have actually have someone to battle in with Joe McCauley, just being sort of reeled in slightly. Victor Nordquist trying to get to that 14th place position. It's Atzvanger in front. Has got Mark Noss sort of in a silver car sandwich as well. And this is the fellow Sim Brothers car. Probably one of the more favourite liveries on the grid as well is the T-Lex. It's a very striking livery. At least you know you can definitely tell that that is the Sim Brothers car.
Very nice livery, nice homage as well, and I love the wordplay with the name as well. The fight for fourth place is on. Giuseppe Deanna would like that spot back. Benjamin Heilman is doing a nice job defending. And oh, by the way, Heilman has caught Stefan Zero for third place. It's a three-way battle for the final spot on the podium, and the 77 has been the first car to get penalized in this race. Of course, live stewarding as per usual on Monday, and they gave a penalty to the 70s. And that penalty was, well, actually, no, they have not. That was a racing incident. I do apologize. Racing incident between the 19 and the 77, racing incident between the 197 and the 214. No further action for the 34, and a racing incident between the 256 and the 197. Now, the 77 did have a penalty, and he came in and parked it in pit lane, but I'm forced to believe it was not a steward penalty.
No, I'm going to guess it looked like an SG30 before that car disappeared off the timing screen. So I think maybe once again people just pushing the luck into the pit lane. The pit lane at Laguna is also a bit of an evil entrance in itself, so easy to overshot yourself. And if you do, actually, you end up going into the wall. It's probably the worst pit lane to get wrong, apart from maybe something like I'd say Brands Hatch, who has a little chicane coming into it, as the Honda of Giuseppe Deanna, the 11 looking up the inside, and Benjamin Heilman's gone off, has been forced wide. Can the 11 go all the way around the outside? They're going to try for the switchback coming up to the once again the turn. What is this? 3 or 4? Looking up the inside, they're going to be too wide. Benjamin Heilman has a big twitch. The Honda will be alongside, as well as the
oh
Lexus.
no.
And now look at that. It's the other Sim Brothers car. That's Nicholas Nordquist in the 137 up the inside. That is the problem with Laguna Seca. Everyone is so close together. You have a slight off, a slight mistake. There goes 4 positions.
Speaking of slight mistake, Phil Roberts went off in the corkscrew a lap ago, and Rudy Philbalter just went off the track as well. Heilman didn't necessarily go fully off the track, but because they were all fighting for that 4th place spot at the time, they went all the way back to 6th place. He went back to 7th place, losing several spots, but now has been able to get back in front of the 137 Nissan of Nordquist at least, limiting the damage done. A lot of cars going off just on their own accord, no contact, of course, and that is the nature of this racetrack. So yeah, I did not get a penalty for the 77, which leads me to believe that was an ACC assigned penalty for the 77. And bear in mind, that car is still sitting in pit lane at this time, and I think that car has suffered some other sort of issue, as it is no longer going. Well, I told you earlier that Henry Fuerte was catching Joe McCauley. Well, that was true right up until the point where I said it, and of course now the gap is going the opposite direction. McCauley has pulled out a full second over the last couple of laps over the 86 Honda in 2nd place.
So there you go. Joe McCauley has finally sort of got into the groove, and once again, I think maybe just trying to break in the tires to minimize any sort of graining that they have. And as we mentioned that we didn't have any live penalties given, we do finally have one. Getting a quick race replay as well. This is the start. What happened to the 214 perhaps? There you go. Ooh. 214 touches the back. There goes the 34 spinning into the gravel.
Didn't catch that on the live, but an excellent replay nonetheless. And well, that was just a accordion effect down into that corner.
Yeah, exactly. So for the 19 as well, that is our first sort of live stewarded penalty into lap 2, turn 9, involving the 225 and the 19. 5 seconds for car 19, forcing number 225 off track by lifting the brakes. The stewards has decided that the 19 had gone for a maneuver, and they were panicking to get it done, lifted off the brakes, and there you go. We're getting a quick race replay of that, I believe, as well.
Just a little bit of minor contact there. That wasn't what the review was for. Stewards would and have done certainly let that go, as that was inconsequential contact any day of the week, as this might be where the penalty came from. And
I think it's a lot,
a lot of
lot of minor contact and bumps, and
yeah,
that's still sort of going through. Going through for it. We've got some racing incidents, minor contact between the 19 and the 77, the 214 and the 197. The 34 was a no for action. 34 loses control and spins out. The 256 and the 197, the 21 and the 899, the 818 and the 19, the 21, the 197, the 818 and the 77. And that, finally, just as I was reading this, another piece of paper has been handed over my shoulder. Lap 6, turn 9, involving the 18 and the 225, drive-through for car 18. The 18 takes out the 25. I'm going to guess position not returned, otherwise that would have been reduced.
Mark Nosk here into the chicane. Ooh.
So there you go. That is why that car's got a drive-through. Phil Roberts gets the car refired in the Tongzilla, continues around, and Mark Nosk in the 18 pulls in immediately.
I love the Tongzilla car. It's a play on a play, and I love that. We have the couple of other cars that are doing that as well. Nice to know sim racers, first of all, have a sense of humor, and they're very serious. They take sim racing very seriously with their liveries, their car names, and everything else. You love to see it. Giuseppe D'Anna is still in fourth place, still chasing down Stefan Zero. Pretty much resorted to type here after Benjamin Heilman's off. This was where D'Anna was prior. Zero, with that heroic final lap in qualifying, got them the third spot, and they've sat there, but you may wonder just for how long. D'Anna looks absolutely on it here.
And there you go. The Honda looks up to the inside, has got the grip. Yeah, it did look like the Honda just has the better sort of, the better aerodynamics, and you can really use that. And it's going to be a drag race down into what is turn 2. Turn 1 is that kink we've just gone through. Still too wide. The 721 is trying to hang it around the outside on the brakes, hoping that if they could hang it all the way around the outside, it turns into the inside again. But number 11, Giuseppe D'Anna, passed and through, back up into the third position. So we have a Honda 1, 2, 3, and now wondering if D'Anna can really pull away from the 721 and catch up.
It's going to be a very good question if that is possible. You know, you were reading out the championship points. This, of course, the penultimate round of the championship. In 1 week's time, we will decide a champion for the Asia Masters Cup. And the thing that struck me is the top two in the championship, neither one of them have won a race this season. So no winners inside the top two. Just very consistent, those two drivers. Nordquist here, Victor Nordquist this time, making a pass on Atzwanger in the 309. And that looked very easy indeed there.
Potentially as well, that Atzwanger might have realized that they've got the penalty. Once again, they're not fighting for their class. Sometimes if it is easier just to let them go and follow them, especially at Laguna Seca, where sort of incidents and mistakes are punished a lot harsher than at some tracks, not by the stewards or by the game, just by the nature of the track. And I think maybe that was a bit of a strategy call here. But yeah, for the top two, you've had Christopher Verstappen has finished third and second, and Peter Henneberg has finished second and fourth. That's how they've ended up sort of very, very close to one another. Joe McCauley obviously was not here in Donington, and looking down the field as well. I think so far the most consistent driver we've had has to be Mikael Sundstrom. He was seventh, and he's not far off getting that eighth position. And seventh isn't far up the road, so I wonder if the 899 can finish seventh again. It would be a very consistent season for Mikael Sundstrom.
It sure would. And sad news to continue about Hindenburg. They are second in the championship, but I am afraid they will not remain there. Their good fortune and their solid performance will end here today, as they won't finish on the podium. They won't finish at all. The 77 has pulled the garage door down. They are done for the day. Still no idea exactly what happened. They got some sort of ACC penalty. They were in the pit lane for a long time, but now they have well, they've retired that car. So that will help Joe McCauley if he goes flag to flag here, continues to have the Speed Juice fastest lap of the race award, and wins this race. He would have a shot going into the final round to win the championship.
Yeah, very much so. And then it's Suzuka as well, and we know what you say when you mention IGTC tracks and the Honda. Well, you know, they are quite a rocket ship, aren't they? And Suzuka it's gonna be an interesting one for the Hondas. I think that if anyone's gonna steal the championship with a sign out as well, it's gonna be Joe McCauley. And the 11, looking back at a little bit, has started to gap Stefan Zero in the 721 ever so slowly, just a 10th here and there per lap, but a 10th here or there is all you need.
Andy Boardman trying to make that pass on Nordquist, but has Mikael Sundstrom in the mirror as well. These three fighting over the 7th place position. And you have to be wondering, Boardman, who had we'll call it a slightly shaky start to this race, got bumped a little bit, has settled in, and has found the pace. You know, it just wouldn't be a grid here at RCI without the Grease Weasel Racing team. Still don't know what that means. Still don't know why he calls his team that. Love it anyway.
Yeah, and Andy Boardman, you know, he was the winner in your silver class from last round in a rain-soaked Donington, fourth at round one, but is looking to sort of capitalize his silver class lead as well. So good times for the 66. Like I said, maybe not overall. I'm sure Andy would want to be a little bit further up the road if he can help it, but you cannot complain at leading silver class by a comfortable margin. Obviously the cars that were around him that were fighting, we've had problems. Dvorak, I'm looking at 34, they're all the way down in P23 trying to have a recovery drive, you know. So, and Hladky, something happened to the 78 and they're now quite a way back, but that is a comfortable lead for silver.
Yeah, it sure is. And of course, you got Nosk, who also had a penalty earlier. Boardman just along for the ride, way out in front of the rest of his field here. And you got to be careful about that, too, if you are Boardman, because you got Mikael Sundstrom, who doesn't care about the leader of silver. I say that, and I don't mean that in a vicious way. I just mean that that's not Sundstrom's fight. He would rather prefer Boardman let him by to battle Nordquist here, but Boardman is under no duress to do so. He doesn't have to. And of course, Boardman might help Sundstrom. If Sundstrom gives Boardman a little bit of room, Boardman might pass Nordquist here and do him a favor by sending him back to him anyway. So catch 22. There's a lot of things that you have to consider in a race like this. Oh, running wide there is Boardman, but not close enough with Sundstrom to make the move. And a lot of times I think what Europeans call it V'ing off the corner, what we call here diamonding the corner. A lot of times you do that to gain on them, but I just think he overran the braking zone right there.
Yeah, you can kind of, if you've realised you've made a slight boo-boo, you can V off the corner. I've done it a couple of times myself, and actually sometimes if I'm completely on my own, there's no one behind me, that is actually the preferred line that I take through turn 1 at Laguna. It just feels a little bit sort of smoother to me anyway. But yeah, the two fast sushi cars will be looking up front, either thinking, can we either get by, or can we either get by, or can you pass Nordquist, please? Because we want to get up. And it is nice to see the two sister cars looking good on track. The two purple Nissans in the background. The 66 still trying to chase down Nicholas Nordquist. It's one of those. It appears that Norquist has a little bit of a mistake, and then Boardman catches up. Boardman goes a little bit off the track, loses that time. It is the nature of Laguna Seca. It's just time lost, time gained all the time.
Well, what's interesting about the Sunstrom Q team is I expected Hagstrom Q to be the number 2 driver on that team, but halfway through this championship, Q is the one that has more points than Sunstrom right now. So who really is the number 1 driver on that team? I'm pretty sure they haven't thought about it. And of course, Sunstrom only teams up with drivers he also knows are very fast. So there you have it. Pretty level, those two, all things considered. Nose to tail here today. Going to have to make a decision at some point. Do I race my teammate hard, or do I let him pick his way through traffic as well? Well, here's the leader of the race. His name is Joe McCauley, and, well, he is way out in front. Last time we checked in with him, he had a 4-second lead. Well, he's doubled that. He's got an 8-second lead on this man, Henry Fuerte, the Team Up Garage liveried car. Love the Up Garage cars, the GT300 styled cars. Running second and going very well. Giuseppe Diana has made the pass for 3rd place, so 3 Hondas in a row. The 11 Honda now up in the 3rd place position. I don't know what Larry Wax is. I don't think I want to know. Stefan Zero down to 4th place, started 3rd, but still has decent pace in that car. The front-running Lexus of all the Lexi in today's race, and right behind him, Christoph Verstappen in the 747, the Never Say Never team inside the top 5. Right behind him, of course, Benjamin Heilman and Nordquist Boardman, and we have Mikhail Sundstrom with Q in the queue of this group. And, well, Sundstrom is letting Boardman battle Nordquist, but at what point, Ryan Mawson, do you say enough's enough? You didn't get past him, now it's my turn?
It's a tricky one to call because, like I said, you're still looking at this train, and any moment that these guys make one mistake, that will be both positions for the nearly on pace cars. But I think that Mikhail Sundstrom would pick his moment very well. He's not gonna force the issue, I don't think, but as well at the same time, if a moment is presented, I think they would go for it. The GTRs at the moment, they just seem to be sort of calm and collecting, almost watching the race ahead, and that might still be. You've got to also take into account, the weather, the 43-degree track temp. If you're slightly lifting and having a little bit more of a chill few laps, that will save your tires on. It might be that as soon as Andy Boardman and Nordquist dip into the pits, if those Nissans have got enough rubber left on the tires and it hasn't been melted off, that they can actually push and get the undercut from, or the overcut really, in the 899. Looking up the inside, Boardman once again trying to V off the corner, but that might be signs of things to come. I'm wondering if the tires on that Lexus are starting to get just a little bit sound.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the case, or I wonder if maybe it's just a deterrent to keep Sundstrom from even thinking about it at this point. Could be a little bit of both, also, to be fair. At what point do everybody pit here? You got to make a pit stop regardless. I would say around halfway would be the normal pit time. But going back to pre-race, talking about, we heard a lot of the teams were probably going to make a tire change here. And I'm sure if we know that, a lot of the other teams know that as well. Are you the team, if you're in a prime position, maybe you're a Zero or a Verstappen, do you not take tires, get a little cheeky, and try to steal one here?
It's going to be one of those moments, if the strategy has been revealed. I wonder how many people will just say, I will take tires and do the
sure, whatever you say.
Exactly, just you do that. You can come down pit lane and tell your team to get out those Pirellis. I will definitely do that. And
put them on the wall. Put them on the wall.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm wondering what Joe McCauley might do. There's two ways that Joe could do that, though. Is that he might just press on, using the knowledge of the Honda, using his the experience that he's got in that car, and just continue on with the bad tires. Or he might take tires and try to go even faster and just leave the 86 once again for an absolute dead. It's hard to tell. The problem that you've also got to consider is that Laguna Seca, even if you've got someone who's very slow in front of you, as we've seen a few times, when cars have completely gone off the track, it's still very, very hard to pass here unless they make, once again, another big mistake, or you get, you know, a monumental run. But a lot of the straights here, they're not long enough for the cars to get fully past one another. They will then be too wide into a corner, and too wide with completely shredded tires is going to be even more scary than we saw at the start of the race when people were going too wide through the corkscrew with fresh tires.
Well, the plot thickens, of course. Tobias Geider, who knows Stefan Zero very well, has said to us, confirming Zero isn't even considering taking tires here.
So there you go, the Lexus. The that might be great news for the 721, because they are, you know, they're well within the range of the front three Hondas. If either of them or any of them take the tires, you've just got to wonder what is the 747 behind doing, because their fellow Lexus, knowing Christoph Verstappen, they might also be on the same strategy. It's hard to tell for a lot of the seriously fast runners, because it can swing either way. You know, some people only have pace if they've got fresh tires. Klaus Nearing looking up the inside of Jordan Daly. There's going to be a touch. Jordan Daly, though, saves it and does not loop the car. Uses the effect. If anything, I think the gravel trap helped him there. Looks at the inside of Klaus Nearing, a light touch, and there you go.
Yeah, Jordan Daly gave just enough room for Klaus to go in there. Klaus didn't get up against the curb. Contact made. Klaus backing off, letting Daly go back through. I'm not sure how the stewards will feel about that if I'm Klaus Nearing, because they might count that as a spin. Oh, who's been off here?
That is the...
Is that Boardman?
That's the 35.
Oh, okay. So that is the 35 of Van Kampen,
yeah, there you
who
go.
spun off there, and in self-defense just sat there, and because they would have known there were cars coming. Well, if you're gonna spin down the corkscrew, you might as well spin off where there's no chance of being hit. And an excellent rejoin there. Very smart driving by Steven Van Kampen, who started from the pit lane. Had a bit of a frustrating day, but continues to drive. Maybe a Spirit of the Race Award candidate for sure. Heilman, who is down to P10 here. What's happening to the 796?
Well, when we came back to live pictures, the car did look a little bit unsettled, and you know, going off the track again looked very slidey. I'm wondering if there's been a spin for Benjamin Heilman. Well, there you go. This kind of tells the story. The car was rejoining from the left. I think that he might have taken a little bit too much curb through through the penultimate corner, shuffled him off, and that's where now
contact with Sundstrom as well.
Yeah, light touch on the 899, and so for the fast sushi cars, it's another position gained overall, but they've still got Nordqvist to battle and Boardman.
Oh, so hearing you say fast sushi is never not funny. Jordan Daly in the RCI powered by Triple R 197, continuing to hold off Nyring for the time being, and there it is, decision made for Jordan Daly down the pit lane. Says enough is enough. That will release Klaus Nyring, who probably will stay out another couple of laps at least now and try and get that position on the track. Klaus probably reckons he has a little bit more pace right now. We'll see if that all pans out. Andy Boardman, who is still trying to get by Nicholas Nordqvist in the 137, still yet to do it. Mikael Sundstrom being ever so patient. We see this week in and week out of Mikael Sundstrom, just as patient as you absolutely please. No panic, no hesitation. He's not trying to be aggressive to pass the 899. Certainly he's hoping that Boardman makes a mistake, but so cool, calm, and collected, the nearly on-pace driver.
Well, that is very Mikael Sundstrom style. You know, like you said, there is no, there's no sort of, immediate danger or panic in this driver ever. I think, you could have plenty of things going around you, and Mikael would just sort of nod and tell you over the radio that, okay, and just continue on. It will be almost as well. If the 899 is listening, that is seventh place. If you can have 777 in the standings if he makes it to seventh place. Boardman has fallen back a little bit from Nordquist, so now might be the time for the nearly on pace cars to say you had your shot at taking Nordquist to the 137. You haven't managed it, and now here we go, starting to get incredibly close through turn one. Boardman not being off the corner anymore, probably realizes the threat from behind, and as now you have to take that bit more of a defensive line because the two Nissans are looking eager to get by.
Well, my point about Sundstrom, is if he was a Formula One driver, he would have already been on the radio. He'd have been asking for a steward's inquiry by now for absolutely nothing at all. But because he isn't, so he's not, and he's getting on with it. Gladkey in the 78, haven't seen him much today, but finds himself under fire from Nico Kumpu, who just happens to be the leader of the cars that have pitted. Kumpu, the first among those that have come in. Kingston Lee, the best name in sim racing, second of those cars currently. Sarka is third. Daly came out in the 20th place position, the fourth of the cars that pitted. I don't know what the right strategy is in a race like this. I would almost argue pitting earlier would have been better. Halfway point optimum, earlier better, but there's so many cars that haven't come in. Why is that?
I'm looking at the pit times as well as Andy Boardman for the Grease Weasel Racing managed to get that car stopped and into the pit lane. Looking at the times, a lot of them appear to have not taken tyres. We've got anywhere between a 29 seconds for Hladky up to a 44 seconds for Zarka. There's a few times where I think, yeah, they must have taken tyres. Phil Roberts, a 1 minute 19. I'm going to say that must have been probably a tyre stop and maybe a little bit because we've got also like a 1 minute 6 for Van Kampen. I'm thinking that a lot of the people are not taking tyres, and I'm wondering if they've gone full tank and they've decided just to run it out all the way like it is a regular race and just endure the heat and the tyres that will inevitably, in this temperature, fall off.
Well, it's not easy. These drivers, Pro and Silver, making it look very easy, but I can promise you, firsthand experience, it's not. It's very hot out there. It's very slick. The track's optimum, of course, but you are sliding around. The temperatures are hot. You're graining your tires, and this racetrack is tough to race in general, let alone in the heat of the day like we're doing today. So they're making it look real easy. It is a realistic chance that you can take by taking tires. I think we're going to see, based on the fact that a lot of people haven't come in yet, that's not going to be the case. We're not going to see a ton of teams take tires here. They're, like you said, they're going to try and tough it out. We'll see how that works out. We know a couple of cars have taken tires that pitted around the halfway point. Be curious to see if they are able to make up any position at all, because just like you said, it's hard to pass around here, even with new tires. There's no DRS zone here. It'd be tough to fit one in anyway at a tight track like this, but rather besides, it's going to be difficult, and I think that's what they've all done. They've all decided, it's hard to pass anyway. It probably won't be worth it. Ladkey in the pit lane bails out of that fight with Kumpu. Kumpu will be relieved that he has some clear running to the tune of about 7 seconds to Tom Watts in front. He'll hope that Tom Watts is pitted by the time he catches him, of course. Meanwhile, the fight for what is effectively the 6th place position. Sundstrom clear of Boardman now because Boardman has pitted. What will Sundstrom do to Nordquist? Keep in mind now, this is a fight in class. Does Sundstrom or Vigasque get aggressive now, maybe?
It's one of those, you know. I think, yeah, for the 899, it might be time to push as well. Vigasque is also under fire from the 796 behind, so I'm wondering as well if the with teammates, the 81 is probably going to be trying to hang on to the 899 just to pull them along a little bit more and get away from that. But Nicholas Nordquist, he does appear to be pulling out just once again a few tenths here and there per lap, but I think with some clear air, once Mikhail gets back into the swing of it, that car might start reeling them back in again. You just got to, for the 81, you've got to keep your eyes on the road, but also keep one eye in the mirror, because Benjamin Harmon is pushing hard to catch back up. We've seen that car does have the pace. It's just had an unfortunate exit of the track and stage left, which is very easy to do at this track. So trying to make up for lost time.
I've definitely never left this racetrack where I didn't leave the racetrack accidentally before the time came. Remember the contact between Klaus Nyring and Jordan Daly earlier? Stephen DeVos has handed me a sheet of paper here. Warning for car 21 for forcing the 197 off the track. Doesn't gain the position. And that was all that was that. And this is the replay of that. Just a little bit of contact here. I have seen them give penalties for turning cars here, but that decided against in this case. A warning for the 21. I'd say that's fair dues.
Yeah, realistically, obviously, the 21 slowed down. Nothing really came of it. Probably, no I would say no damage, or if that, incredibly minimal damage. So much that you wouldn't even really fix it, because basically, to fix it, you're gonna get one engineer come along with a microfiber rag and just wipe the scratch mark off, and then send you out, call it
It'll
good.
buff out.
Yeah, exactly. For Joe
Well,
McCauley, though, the number one, just head and shoulders above the rest of the field. They've still pulling a little bit on Henry Fuerte. I think the gap last time I saw it was, yeah, there you go. It's just pinged up 10.3 seconds. So they've pulled it out into the double digits now, and the lap times as well, not really falling off. Obviously, his best lap time when the tires were nice and optimum was a 22.4. And the last lap by is into the 24s now, but still, compared to some other fields, is still incredibly good. And there you go, 23.865 was that last one. So the number one Honda not really being ailed by the temperatures.
well, Steven in chat just brought up a interesting point. 3 Hondas in the race, right? And they're all up front. Well, that is certainly the case. It hasn't been the case the entire season. It is the case, however, today at Laguna Seca. Talking about contacts on the racetrack, remember when Benjamin Heilman had last turn contact with Sundstrom? Well, that was deemed a no further action for inconsequential minor contact. And that's all that we have for you on the Stewards Report. You're all caught up. And also the 999, who has been sitting in pit lane for quite some time. That's Phil Malter, still sitting there. Hasn't officially retired, but is some 17, 18 laps off of the pace. Andy Boardman was the leader in the silver class by quite some margin, is now fighting Sarka in the 818. They're going to go too wide, almost down the hairpin loose as Sarka gathers it back up and stays in front of Andy Boardman. Andy Boardman doesn't need to lose time. Shouldn't be in too much of a panic here, should Boardman, but doesn't need to lose a bunch of time, because there are some other fairly quick silver cars that could still challenge Boardman if he gets held up here.
Yeah, Boardman really not wanting to be held up, and looking at his pit stop as well, I was a 1:07, so I'm wondering if this might be one of the few cars that might have even taken tires, which is what we're seeing. Just the phenomenal, pace difference between that of the 66. And there you go. Let's. I think that is Henry Fuerte as well, I believe, in the Team Up Garage car.
Well, we know that Nordquist has come into the pit lane for their mandatory stop, but what's happened here in the corkscrew, just running a bit wide, and that lets both of the Speedy Fish Nissans through. I don't actually know what they're called, but they're Speedy Fish Nissans now.
Yeah, so there you go. Both for the 899 and for VSU, they are through. Nicholas Nordquist pulls it into the pits. So, Victor, yeah, it is Nicholas Nordquist. There's too many Nordquists in this race. You've got two of them.
I would say there's just the correct amount too.
Well, true. But yeah, so then now for the 899 and the 81, time to push and time to get those positions back as well. Someone in chat mentioned 3 Hondas at the top. Well, for the longest time we had 3 Hondas, 2 Lexuses, and all 4 Nissans were all clumped together with the silver class Nissan Phil Roberts, obviously in the silver class down in P21 as we stand. But yeah, we had a very even split of Honda, few Lexuses, and all of the Nissans.
I think you just described Noah's Ark with cars right there, Mawson, is what you've done there. Nicholas Nordquist coming back out on the track. I believe that's Nico Kumpu behind him in the 256. They'll be racing for position. So if Kumpu can get this done before the tires are up to temp on Nicholas Nordquist's car, this would be a marked gain for Nico Kumpu here.
getting fresh out of the pits. Obviously, you know that they will have cooled off in that time, probably taken a little bit of fuel, but yeah, trying to get them back up to temperature without graining them even more than they must already be, or if not graining, they will definitely be blistered just because of the, you know, the incredible heat that we've got out here in California. So the 256 looking all over the back, and if the Nordquist has had that incident once, it could happen again as Andy Boardman throws it up the inside of the corkscrew. I didn't think he was going to get that car stopped, but it does manage to actually stop it, and not only stopped, he's got by and he's gapped them.
Yeah, Kingston Lee wasn't convinced either because he goes to turn back under the Andy Boardman, thinking Boardman's going to go wide. Boardman did go wide, just not quite wide enough. Kingston Lee saw Boardman charge in there and said, I'm not interested in being involved in that today. Thought he was going to have the over-under. Nope. Somehow, Boardman held on to that position. Leader in.
Joe McCauley into the pit lanes. We'll have to keep an eye on what his pit delta is. That'll give us at least an indication of what that car has done, you know, for tyres or not. So that promotes the number 11, Giuseppe Deanna, up into the first place, and Stefan Zero taking P2. Andres Zarka a little bit wide coming out of turn 2, and that's Jordan Daly all over the back, looking up the inside once again into the fast right. We've been here before. He will do it again. And there you go, the 197 up the inside and clear.
That was a ballsy move by Jordan Daly because he knows he was on the receiving end of exactly that move, and it didn't come off, but that one did. I'm not even sure they made contact there. Very close between the two of them. 197 up a spot, and of course that is for position sort of, and getting that spot done on Sarka, that I'm not sure where that will put Daly. That might, after pit stops are finished, that might put Jordan Daly back inside the top 10. That's my very rough maths, as it always is, but I'm pretty sure that's Daly back in the top 10. Nicholas Nordquist here continuing to lead around Nico Kumpu, as the tires will certainly be up to temp and pressure in the Sim Brothers 137 by now. So it's a fair fight. It's game on.
Yeah, and going back to the Joe McCauley, his pit stop was a 46.7 from that is the pit delta. I'm going to say that that is not long enough to take tyres. Might have been taking a little bit more fuel. Obviously, we don't have any of the other Hondas in yet to even sort of use as a reference. It might just be that the Honda burns a little bit more fuel around here versus some of the Nissans that have already been in. But otherwise, a lot of pit stops, all very, very similar time. So yeah, I think for Joe McCauley, no fresh tires on that. John Daly once again is
look at this
inside. Jordan Daly now with the moves, he's found the loud pedal. He has definitely gone on it.
He almost got a little bit too much in that left-hander. That's not the line you would normally have exiting that corner. Saves it. It didn't look like much, but I promise you it was a moment that gets your attention. Daly moving up the board. Kingston Lee is going to get sick of people sending it on him here in a lap or two. That's 2 in 2 laps.
Yes, yeah, so for 197, they found some great pace. And once again, looking at the pit delta, that was a 109. I'm wondering if this is what we're seeing. This is the difference between those tires, between the tire change and tire not change. And that might be, you know, one of the greatest strategies. If Jordan Daly can make it work and he's out in the clear air, you know, he's got the best chance of making it work, really. And I believe as well, looking on the timing screen, Henry Fuerte comes into the pits from the lead of the race. 15 minutes to go. A little bit of a longer stop for the 11 Honda, and here comes Mikael Sundstrom in the 899, leaving the sister car, the 81, out to play.
Now that's interesting. That leads me to believe there was no consensus of strategy for that team, as one pits, one does not. And Vigescu will continue to run. Verstappen is in as well. Verstappen is actually exiting the pit lane as we speak at the start-finish line. And, of course, Sundstrom in the pit box. Giuseppe Deanna, the leader of the race currently. The 11 Honda leading them around 0 up to second. And Vigescu, the top 3, they all still need to pit. Several other cars that have had issues thus far still need to pit. Nyring, one of those. Victor Nordquist in the 19, and Atzwanger as well, just to name the cars inside the top 10. Tom Watts in 14th also still has to do a required pit stop.
Yeah, and Joe McCauley's come out, but the gap is not as, really not as much as it once was to Henry Fuerte. It's now all the way down to 3.6 seconds. So for the 86, they've gained a big chunk of time in the pit stops, and I'm wondering the number.
What was Joe's delta?
The Joe's Delta for the pits was a 46 second, and Henry Fuerte was a 39. It must have been that
Hmm.
the number one was low fueled at the start, and that the 86 has taken more fuel, run it a little bit longer, and that's what they've saved in the pit stops.
Yeah, I think that is exact. I was trying to work out exactly what that could be, and I reckon you are spot on. Macaulay low fueled it, and Fuerte did the exact opposite, and now they've sort of come back together. Question is now, can Fuerte get closer? Only needs about 4 seconds to get up in there and do something about Joe McCauley, but can he do it? And of course, Joe now might, if Vigasque doesn't pit in the next lap or so, which he didn't that time by, McCauley might catch the 81 Nissan. And if that slows him down, all that's going to do is help Henry Fuerte catch that group. Oh my goodness, high drama in the final moments here.
Yeah, so for the three Hondas, it's starting to hot up as well, because we can't really forget now that while this is happening, and while potentially the number one might be slowed up, and the 86s come out of the pits, maybe have the tires cool off just a little bit more, which will probably help that car as well. Is that the number 11 Giuseppe De Anna? They stayed out for an extra lap or two, have now come in. Where's this going to put them when they finally leave the box as well? You just got to hope that, at least Giuseppe Diana will be hoping that they had a better in and out lap than the other two Hondas. Stefan Zero in the 721 also pulls into the pit lane out of second. And like I tell you, you just watch it. Vigasque continues out, does the 81. So the 81 Nissan takes the lead of the race and stays out there.
This is going to be very interesting. I told you Macaulay is catching him. He's catching him several tenths a sector here. If Vigasque stays out another 2, 3 laps, I reckon Macaulay will have caught him, but Fuerte is losing time. 6 tenths this lap was the difference between Macaulay and Fuerte, so it might not matter that Macaulay catches Vigasque, especially if Macaulay is this fast. He could just drive around him, of course. But Mikhail Sundstrom here looking to make a pass, and does on the 309 Lexus, still yet to pit that car.
So the 899 through, and Benjamin Heilman, that's 796 as well, not too far back, behind them in the bright blue car, looking back from the wing of Atsvanga. I wonder, are they going to let them by? Yes, they are. So there you go, realizing that that's not their race. It'd be interesting to see, because I think that Heilman has actually closed the gap in the pit stops. I think he was a little bit further back than the 899 pre-pit stops, but and I'm being told in my ear that actually it's a 3-second gain that Heilman's got. That might put him directly in the middle of the two sister cars when the 81 does finally pit, because they're, once again, still yet to come in, which, that is the strategy call for them. They could be losing time.
It very much could be the case. Heilman, who had a interesting start to the race, was up then down, fell back to the back end of the top 10. Now looking like they could be a contender here for at least 7th place. Could be 6th, depending on where Vigasque comes out. We don't know, and we won't know that until that car comes in. Well, they haven't just yet. That lap, Fuerte gained 3 seconds, or 3 tenths rather, on Joe McCauley. And McCauley, of course, gained several tenths on Vigasque out front. Very close quarters action coming up here. Oh, and I think I have just spotted why Fuerte caught McCauley a little bit. McCauley had to get around the 78 of Hladky on that lap. And around here, that's a big difference on the time board, having to pass somebody.
Yeah, especially when the lap is so short. A lot of tracks you wouldn't really even blink at 3 tenths, but if someone catches you 3 tenths in one lap here, it's a bit of a worry. And there you go, the 81 pulls in at the last possible moment. Joe McCauley will have been thanking his lucky stars that, now we don't have to pass that Nissan. And look at the track ahead, it is all nice and clear. The 35 is quite a good distance up the road, at least a lap or so, I'd say, before he properly catches that car for a pass. So Henry Fuerte and Joe McCauley battle still on, but I think the number one might have the edge. But where is the 81 going to come out? That is where I'm wondering. Giuseppe De Anna and Stefan Zero go back through. Christopher Streppen goes through, and here comes the 81 out of the pit lane, takes the pit limiter off. Mikhail Sundstrom is thundering down the main straight, coming in, and it might actually be that Mikhail might just about pip his teammate. It depends who's faster through this corner. Mikhail on the proper racing line, but his teammate has actually gone and done it.
Well, there you have it, the reverse of the way it was all race long. Oliver Hagstrom Vigescu actually gets in front of Mikhail Sundstrom. We talked about the tight championship points race between these two, and now it's all going to Vigescu now as they have more points and they're in front of their teammate at this stage. And I was wondering what happened to Heilman, who was right behind Sundstrom. He's fallen off 3 seconds. I wonder if he dipped the tire off into the dirt. I'm not sure, but something caused him to lose several seconds. Joe McCauley out in front of the field. Fuerte is, by the way, still catching McCauley, but I'm afraid it's a day late and $1 short. Not a lot of time left.
Nah, 7 minutes 50 when you've got, it's still more laps than you might necessarily think when the lap times are only like a minute 25, but if you're only catching a tiny bit here and there, it's just, too little, too late. And also, as it's been pointed out by our broadcaster Jake Boswell, Mikhail Sundstrom has got 7th. So he can be the most consistent driver this whole season, but I'm sure that Mikhail will not want that. He'll want to get back past the 81, hard onto the brakes and tuck it right up behind his teammate. This is also the good kind of racing that you can see, when you really know someone and trust someone you're racing with, that can get within inches of one another and still race this cleanly. Looking as well, the lap time for Benjamin Heilman last time around was a 1:24.5, so it wasn't a disastrous lap. I'm just wondering if the 899 and the 81 have just put the loud pedal down.
It's very possible, and the challenge by Fuerte will go by the wayside here, losing several seconds getting around Hladky in the 78. Wasn't as smooth as McCauley's pass on the same car, and that will all but end that challenge for that position. But it's looking like a very solid second place for Henry Fuerte today in what has been a fantastic race if you are in a Honda badged car.
Yeah, so Honda have locked out the top 3. We've almost, apart from Nicholas Nordquist has dropped off the back of this, we've almost got back how we had 3 Hondas, 2 Lexuses, and we had 4 Nissans before. We've now only got 3. Nico Kumpu obviously managed to get by the 137 and has pulled out a little bit to the tune of about 2.6 seconds. No, it's 1.5 seconds. I beg your pardon, but yeah. So a good day for Honda. Probably a better than I would expected day for Nissan. They were quite scattered over the over the qualifying field, but I think it's just a little bit of an easier car to drive, as you say that. The 81 goes completely sideways coming out of that corner.
Teammates, etc., and so forth, racing each other and all that, how you're supposed to do that really respectfully. I think these two will do that, but I'm pretty sure Mikhail is not going to let Oliver have 6th place. I think he's going to race him to the checkered flag here. He was very close the last lap, fell off a little bit there, got the line a little wrong, and Vigescu now has a little bit more room to play with for the moment. Sundstrom, though, not going to let him have it, it doesn't look like, at least at this stage. 2 cars have still not pitted. Atzwanger in the 309 Lexus in 9th place has not pitted, and neither has Tom Watts in the 942. They must be leaving it for the last possible second to pit. They will have to come in before the final lap, of course, because of the pit window timer. But they're trying to leave it as late as possible.
Yeah, so look, for them, I think, like I said, maybe they're just trying to use the clear air, get a little bit further up the road than some of their rivals, and hoping to come out just that little bit far ahead. And it's Victor Nordquist as well, the other Sim Brothers car. Like I said, that's the T-Lex, the very unmistakable car, being chased down by the 66 of Andy Boardman. And that car, the 66, has just been on a rocket ship all day, really. Like I said, had a little bit of a rocky start. Obviously, I got a few taps right to the beginning of the race, but in the clear air, that car has really got up and gone.
So let's think about this for a minute. We've got T-Lex for a Lexus, and we've got Tonkzilla for a GTR in this race.
Very much so. There you go. There is the Tongzilla pulled up by our broadcaster. Good livery as well, and like I said, it fits the car very much. It is kind of
Yeah,
like an oversized Tonka toy.
classic GT 500 Super GT livery from
But
back in the day when the R35 was new and raced in that series, or made its debut racing in that series. In fact, in Japan, very nice looking car. And even before that, in fact, the older generations
the
of GTR as
R34,
well.
the
Yeah,
R34, if you remember that very much reminds me of the R34. I think it's the Pennzoil. They had a GT
it is.
500,
Yeah.
the wide-bodied, crazy GT 500. That was a Pennzoil yellow and black car, so it looks very much reminiscent of that. And you said that Mikael Sundstrom would not let sixth place just go to waste. Well, he definitely hasn't. He's closed it right back up. Neither GTR looks exactly what I would call completely planted, as Oliver once again has a little bit of a run wide. But both of the cars look quite slidey now. I think they've decided that that they're in a very clear bubble to themselves. Benjamin Heilman is still fallen off 4.4 seconds behind. They've decided that let's just race for it as hard as we can to the line. You've got potentially 2 laps left, maybe 3, depending where the leader is. They're trying to if it's you're going to go for broke, really.
Well, Atzwanger and Watts have both pitted. That will give the silver lead back to Andy Boardman finally. He spent half this race not in the lead. It's crazy to think about that, considering how far out in front he was. Well, he has retained that position again. And Kingston Lee now second place in the silver category, with Atzwanger third now. So that position, or that challenge from the 555, has bared fruit. Remember, they gave up positions to pro cars without contest, and that probably helped them keep that second place spot, though Atzwanger is apparently right behind the 555 right now, as that battle will likely come down to the line. Speaking of a battle coming down to the line, the NOP boys are going to settle it amongst themselves here.
Yeah, and for Kingston Lee as well, if they can hang on to that position, that will really help them, because they are third in the Silver Championship, and
Oh,
this
here we
might be
go.
the final movement. Mikael Sundstrom looks to the outside. It is a long, old way later on the brakes. The 81 just about nudges ahead, but that shows exactly what this team is about. There is no team orders here. Mikael Sundstrom
Ooh, sliding.
really threw it into the corner. If anything, I think if the 81 hadn't been on the outside line, they would have had that, just the corner speed they had. Trying around the outside line, but it is a long, old way. Even with the camber there helping you, it just was too far to be had.
DSQ just almost lost it there, sliding the car through the corner. Oh, had a little bobble there. Down to the inside here is Mikael Sundstrom. Around the outside, the momentum is with Figescu. Figescu able to hang on to that spot, but they're going to have to do it one more time. I don't actually think this is the final lap. I think
No,
Macaulay is going to get to the line before, so they have 2 more laps to go. Oliver Hagstrom, Figescu has to hang on. Otherwise, Mikael Sundstrom is going to be coming for 6th place.
shows that the tires on all of these race cars have really they have passed their best. I do not think you're going to get your deposit back from Pirelli for any of these, as the 81 is slides again, but then the 899 is wide, so neither of them really gain on one another. It's this is the problem with 2 match machinery cars and being teammates. I'm gonna hazard a theory that the setups are incredibly similar. The 899 closes right up to the back
Ooh.
again. You can
I
see.
was wrong, by the way. This is the last lap. This is the last lap.
This is the last lap. The white flag has been waved, so there you go. But for them, here comes the number one, Joe McCauley, a lights to flag victory, and what an amazing drive for that. There you go, checkered flag for the number one, Henry Fuerte. A phenomenal drive will come home in P2, and Giuseppe De Anna, the final Honda, will arrive in P3. But we look our eyes back to what is going to happen to these two Nissans. It's the 81 still managing to hang on to the final corner, and I think that's it. I think unless a miracle happens, 899 is going to try it. He's going to try get the better run out, but I don't think it's going to be the 81. Oliver Hagstrom, Vickers U will take P6 in the fastest
Oh,
Nissan.
contact!
Oh, and here we go. Victor Nordquist on Andy. Is that Andy Boardman? I believe it is.
Andy Boardman is trying to get through here. Contact in the chicane, corkscrew. A couple of contacts, one at the top, one at the bottom. Ring the bell. Victor Nordquist.
So there we go. That's Stefan Zeros and Christopher Verstappen did come in fourth and fifth. But for Andy Boardman, it will be a great day. 12th place overall, but first in silver by a comfortable margin. That will really help his championship points. Jordan Daly as well in the 14th place. That car has shown some incredible pace after the pit stop and some great moves once again. Another good drive. Kingston Lee will take P2 in silver. That will really help their championship battles. And Atzvanger in the 309 will be P3 in silver.
Well, the results confirmed, and as we so often have to say, results confirmed, but with the threat of post-race stewarding penalties, as always, there were quite a lot of heavy racing there on the final lap. But still, what a race it was. And McCauley winning again. I believe that's the second win. Of course, he wasn't here for round two and now has given himself a greater than good chance of winning this championship in 1 week's time. He has a little bit of work to do still, Mawson, but he can absolutely do it now.
Oh yeah, it's not a given, but he's put himself in, like I said, the best possible chance that he could have ever had for that Honda, and it's going to be a great battle at Suzuka. A lot of places still yet to be had, especially in the silver class, and well, we'll hope you will join us for that. Obviously, the best way to make sure that you don't miss that is to like and subscribe, hit the bell. You won't miss any of this fantastic GT racing that we've got. And also at this point of the show, we'd like to thank our partners who made this great race that we've had out of here at California possible. Race Department, aka Informatica, Driver 61 Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. If you need a place for all the mods and a great forum to boot, Race Department is there. AK Informatica, they very kindly host our servers, and if you need any computer equipment, it's definitely over there. Driver 61, you can use our discount code in our Discord server. And it doesn't matter if you're a newcomer to ACC or a professional sim racer, you can find a couple of attempts, a couple of seconds, and then that will really help you out on the grid. And Fanatec, you've got our affiliate link in the description if you want some of probably the best sim racing equipment out there. You can use that. And Sim Racing GP, you want to start your own community or get involved in some more racing, bit of a different from the public loppies, then you can join there as well. We hope that you would join us on the RCA grid. We've got splits. We have with the new website, we have mid-championship signups now as well. And coming up, we have the 9-hour Alton Park multi-class. It's going to be an absolute dream to watch with the Porsche Cup cars and the GT4s. So if you like something a little bit different, that is going to be on soon. We've got the Diamond Drive Cup returning. Saturday Night Owl is returning for season 9 as well. It seems like just a long time ago when I joined, and it was season 3. Got the Thursday GT4 Championship, if that is really your, if you GT4s are your deal. We've had some great racing in there, and coming up in a little bit time as well. Do you like the British tracks and the British cars? Well, don't worry, because after the Asia Masters is done, we are going to have the British Masters, which is pretty much what it says on the tin: British cars, British tracks.
Yeah, and there's one series that I don't broadcast, comment, or have anything to do with. It's the Monday Championship, and I still watch this championship because on Monday it's always crazy. The Asia Masters Cup, I kind of giggled at it when it was theorized. I have loved every race so far. Before we go, though, I just got to give credit to Henry Fuerte. second place in today's race. He was sixth in the championship. He could skyrocket all the way to second or third place. I'm not quite sure of the math, but he's going to jump all the way to a podium spot or near a podium spot today with that great race as well. Just incredible stuff all season long. And Boardman, who has been somewhat dominant in the silver class, has done nothing but grow his lead, but even he has a little bit of work to do in the final round.
Oh yeah, no, nothing is decided at all, and I think as well we are going to have what happened to Rudy Philmalter. This was the qualifying. This was the car that we saw upside down. The question that has been on our minds the whole race: what happened to the 999? Comes
Oh my goodness! So it wasn't Nico Kumpu. I'm gonna need a slow motion Jake Boswell, the Jedi Bosmeister replay, because we thought it was Nico Kumpu. It was Rudy Philmalter, and he went into the barriers big style. Look at this, folks. I don't know what caused this. This seems like frustration, maybe. Maybe they invalidated their lap. They go over the hump. They're airborne. They go through the tires upside down. Oh my goodness. And it's a perfect handstand and into a sleeping turtle.
So there you go. That basically what we've been wondering all race. What happened to that car? We couldn't even work out what that car was. It's a bit difficult when you're just looking at the undercarriage. Poor Rudy Philmalter. That would have been terrifying from the inside. The world has gone
That
upside
looks like a
down.
lunar lander. That looks like you're landing on the surface of the
Oh,
moon.
and then we have turned, ladies and gentlemen, into Australia vision. If you are from Australia, this will look the correct way up.
I'm forced to believe that Rudy invalidated his lap, and you know, racing drivers when they get frustrated that they've invalidated a lap, that happened at the end of the session, so he wasn't going to get another lap. A lot of times, you have to take your frustration out, and sometimes it causes you to do things like this, and just huge damage. And for the second time in as many weeks, I've seen a car upside down in an RCI race, but that was very frightening. I am so happy we are sim racing because that is an incredible find by Jedi Jake, the Bosmeister Boswell. We oh my goodness, the tires have popped off the car.
I think Lexus are definitely going to have a share in bodywork, suspension, engines, but sell Rudy a new car. Just if you go over to Drop the Hammer Racing in South Africa at some point, can Lexus, do you have any of those spare cars hanging around? He might need one.
Do you know what's interesting? Kuno said that they fixed the camber issue.
They did, yeah. They've been trying to fix the toe issue, and maybe this is the strategy now. You can fix the toe by simply just removing the wheels from the car.
Let me ask you in closing today, folks at home, have you ever hit the wall so hard your tires forget to sync to the car? They warp back into place, but they definitely forget that their tires on the car for a while. He hits this wall so hard. This is Rudy Philmalter. I know you had a disappointingly race. Um, you definitely dropped the hammer on the wall and the corkscrew. Ladies and gentlemen, your thumbnail.
I was going to say, and that is definitely a view to end on. So, thank you so much for joining us for this Asia Masters, and hopefully you will join us next week for the finale at Suzuka.